with them a call at 303-298-1155. That's Magic Financing features Margot the Magician. They're open Monday through Friday till 8 and Saturdays till 7. Check them out. That's Magic Financing. Call them today at 303-298-1155. Tell them that you heard about it here at KUHSdenver.com. Also, visit us at www.magicfinancing.com.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Council. I'm your host, Charlie Pacello. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in on this beautiful Colorado day here. It's a bright and sunny day. Boy, do we have a wonderful, wonderful show set up for you today. One of the most important conversations that we have had on the Council since our show began almost 4 years ago. So we're going to get into it right away, but before we get into it, I just want to make out a shout out for our station here, KUHS Radio TV Denver, The Stream. We are broadcasting live right here in Denver, Colorado, and broadcasting all across the nation and all around the world. Our station is being listened to and heard by so many people from around the world. We have a global audience, and it is because of you that our station continues to grow and to expand our reach to all the different corners of the globe. We want to be a beacon of light in a crazy world and help people to feel like they can come here and learn and understand, and we want to give you the best programming available that we can possibly do. And we have some great DJs, we've got some great hosts, and a lot of different things that you can tune into here at KUHS. So tune in. Our mission is to bring quality programming that reflects the diversity of our staff and to have honest, grounded, authentic conversations about the many issues that are confronting our society. We want to be a beacon of hope in the world filled with fear, distrust, and separation, and we strive to bring our city, our nation, and our world together to provide by providing a platform where we celebrate our diversity, our commonalities, our goodness, and our humanity. So tune in to KUHS. We are here. The Council is here, and I just want to make an announcement about this Memorial Day. We are going to have an online Memorial Day retreat sponsored by the Rose Center. It's our 7th annual Memorial Day retreat. We are honoring the fallen and bringing back the sacredness of what Memorial Day means. And we're doing it. I'm doing it with Dr. Edward Tick and Kate Dahlstedt. And please go and register. It's going to be from 11 Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Time to 2 p.m. Eastern Time. For those of you who live in the Mountain Time Zone, that's going to be from about 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. So please join us. It's a very moving, very important returning sacredness to what Memorial Day was all about. So tune into that. Please register, and I think you won't be disappointed. Also, I have a retreat that's going to be coming up for those of you who are interested. It's coming up September 16th through the 19th. We're going to be doing it here in Denver, Colorado, at a wonderful place called Sunrise Ranch. It's up in Loveland. It's a beautiful location. With all of the things that have been going on in the last year, it's going to be a wonderful time for people to get back together, to heal our wounds, to come back in community, and to share our experiences in a healing and therapeutic way. There's so much incredible healing that can happen in groups. So if you're interested, check out my website. That's coresoulhealing.com. That's coresoulhealing.com. Check out the Warriors Heart Retreat. People are already signing up for it, so please check it out. If you are interested and you want to heal those deeper core wounds, I highly recommend it. It's going to be a very powerful, powerful experience. Okay, folks, we have a very important conversation that we're going to have today with my guest, and it's about military sexual trauma. And a lot of U.S. service members don't recognize this and don't understand this, but U.S. service members are more likely to be sexually assaulted than shot in the line of duty. And when I learned that, I was shocked. And, I was, in the military. I come from a military family. As many of you know who listen to this show, generations. And I have many of my dear sister service members who, if anybody who ever threatened them or did any harm to them, I would be up in arms about it. And, we need to address this, and we need to address it now. This is not something that needs to be brushed under the rug, because, they are our brothers and sisters that are being harmed by this, and we need to do something about it. And our guest is doing something about it, and they are doing their very best to bring attention to this very egregious disorder in the service that needs to be rectified as soon as possible. Her name is Amy Braley Frank. She holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Psychology and Business from the University of Maryland. She's a certified level 4 military sexual assault victim advocate and forensic interviewer. She is the founder of Never Alone Advocacy, a nonprofit organization with the following mission: to give survivors of abuse of power a platform for change and awareness through multiple venues and referral processes, to promote the development of an environment based upon mutual respect and trust within all our branches of the U.S. military, to provide an outreach to service members who have been recipients of sexual misconduct, abuse of authority, and cover-ups, to work for accountability within all ranks, rather than selective and arbitrary enforcement of military justice, to exercise the U.S. Constitution, First Amendment's freedom of the press, to help ensure American public are aware of success and failures of U.S. military commands in addressing issues concerning sexual misconduct, abuse of authority, and cover-ups. Her website is neveraloneadvocacy.org. That's NEVERALONEADVOCACY.org. Amy, welcome to the council.
Thank you. Thank you for that really lovely introduction as well. I really appreciate it and this platform.
Well, what you're doing, and we were talking before we went on air and went live about, it just shocked me, Amy, when I read and learned and watched all the reporting and all the work that you've been doing, how prevalent military sexual assaults and rapes are. And it was just shocking to me. And knowing that, I was in the academy, and I have a lot of my dear sister service members that I would protect them if somebody wanted to cause them harm, I wouldn't stand for it. It just completely goes against my nature, and it's just a really shock that this is actually happening.
It's very sad, and I think we need to point out that the majority of service members are good, honest, very with high integrity, volunteer to serve our nation and protect our freedom. And we at Never Alone love and support the military, but the few that are committing these crimes are the bad apples, and they're spoiling the barrel. So as a daughter, granddaughter, and mother of a veteran, it's offensive to me that we're allowing these individuals, these predators, to tarnish the name of our military and stay within the ranks.
I agree, and it's just like it brings the military. When we joined, you joined, I joined, our ancestors, our relatives, we come from a line of military veterans, and one of those things was impeccable integrity, and giving your word, and being honorable, and protecting the innocent, these are the people you go to war with. These are the people who you're putting out your life on the line. And you don't want to be worried about somebody who who's supposed to be looking out for you, that you got to worry about them too.
Right. Oh, no, I mean, that is definitely a common theme. I remember when I started working for the Department of the Army in 2013 out at Fort Bliss, there were several instances where, service members had been out drinking, and later on there was a sexual assault in that evening. And there was this question posed, why would one female go out drinking with four other soldiers?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, let's think about that. These are supposed to be her brothers in arms. At basic training and AIT, they're like, this is the person to your left and right. They're going to make sure that you come home safely. And if you die on the battlefield, they're going to bring your body home so the enemy doesn't defile it. Yet I can't trust them to go have a few beers with. I mean, it's counterintuitive to what we train.
Yes.
Right? I'm going to trust you with my life, but then you're going to harm my body.
Yeah.
And then blame me for it.
And that's what's so, I mean, it's just like something just snaps in people's mind, because I don't know how that break happens in a person, where they see that that's okay, that is appropriate, or that they can, given some rights, some power play, preoccupation that they may have, that I have the right to violate you in this way, or I'm going to do it in order to keep you subordinate, or whatever it is. And I don't know if it's education, I don't know if it's a reevaluation of our values that is going to be able to facilitate the change we need to have, so that these things become something in the past.
Well, I think that we have to, kind of pull back and look at the bigger issue.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a very, it's like less than 3% of the population are sexual predators.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
These are the FBI statistics. So normally, what you see in profiles of sexual predators is they usually offend about 10 times before they're ever investigated the first time.
Wow.
And they're normally investigated 3 times before they're ever brought into inside of any kind of court process. So it's the handling of the crime after it occurs that is where I think we're missing the mark on.
Mm-hmm.
So if we just truly believe victims when they say that they've been assaulted, if I tell you that somebody stole my car, I don't have to go through all of this, shenanigans trying to prove to you that the car's really not there.
Right.
This is the only crime where we have to, prove that it really happened, and the victim's not believed, and we're not letting the judicial process work. We're impeding due process by having all these judgments and asking all these questions of a victim. I remember I did a summit in Italy, and one of the head CID agents, Brandon Bell, I always really loved him for saying this. He said, well, ladies and gentlemen, if you have a beautiful, brand new, shiny red Mustang convertible, and you keep it nice and clean, and it's always pretty and shiny, and it always looks good, nobody says, well, shame on you for having such a beautiful car. But when a woman goes out and looks beautiful and has a nice dress on and is feeling attractive, then somehow it's her responsibility for being assaulted. And I thought that was a really good analogy.
That's a great analogy. I think that's a fantastic analogy. And because it puts in perspective, too, how we have different sets of, I don't want to say values, but we have different requirements for different things. If it's an object that we like our car, it's not a big deal. But a woman dressing up and having nice and wanting to look nice, now she has to be held responsible for just wanting to dress up, wanting to look pretty.
Everybody likes to feel attractive.
I like to feel attractive. I like to look good. I shave. I clean my. I used to have.
We brush our teeth and go to the dentist, and take care of our bodies, and go to the gym, and treat our bodies with respect.
Yeah.
It's just this. There's a lot of judgment that happens, and in training soldiers, they say the darndest things, but I always welcome their questions, because it is an opportunity to dispel rape myths. I had a group of soldiers, young infantrymen, and they said, the sergeant majors and stuff said we're going to have all kinds of sexual assault reports and problems now that women are in combat arms positions and are gonna, go out on these convoys with us and whatnot. And I said, okay, gentlemen. I said, by show of hands, how many of you played high school football?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they all said yes.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
They all said yes. I said, did the cheerleaders ride this bus with you to the football games for the away games? And they're like, oh yeah. I said, okay. I said, did they have cute little short skirts on? Their little cheerleading outfits? And they're like, yeah. I said, did you rape them? And they said, well, no, ma'am.
Yeah.
I said, are you going to start now?
Yeah. Yeah.
And, so the thought that having women working beside men is going to cause rape, as mother of sons, is very offensive to me.
Mm-hmm.
That, that's saying that the male population has no scrutiny with their sexual desires.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. So as a man, I think all men should be offended.
Yes.
And they should check the men that are making these sexist, inappropriate comments about women.
Well,
because those are types
it,
of behaviors and conversations that create a very welcoming environment for predators.
well, I think it's an excuse too. I mean, it gives you an excuse and a justification to have those kinds of behaviors. Well, I can't control it, or they're the reason why this is happening. No. You're making that choice. What happened to agency? What happened to being able to say, I control my thoughts, decisions, and actions. It's not somebody else's responsibility to control that for me. You're blaming somebody else for your choice. That's not healthy. You'll take credit for the good things in your life, but not the bad things in your life. And it's somebody else's fault for why you make those choices. No.
Well, and I think, I brought this up because I think that there has been a message that commanders don't know what they're doing and that they're bad and they don't know how to handle sexual assaults properly. And I think that's the wrong message. I think that the majority of commanders are really good males and females.
Yeah, I agree.
They really want to do what's right. But, when we're not taking into account like human biases, right? So, say that you and I joined the military together, right? We came from a bad neighborhood. You were the smart one, I was the tough one. So we enlisted together. We're like, we're getting out of this horrible situation and this environment. And you got green to gold, right? You had the smarts, you had the better scores, so you became an officer. And you're like, well, I'm taking my sis Amy with me. I want her to be my sergeant major.
That's right.
Right? So we go on some deployments. Your wife cheats on you while we're at deployment. I sit with you and hold your hand while you're crying about your whole life, turning upside down. We've watched people die in combat together. We've looked at each other and said, I'm bringing you back. We're coming back together, right? So we got a trauma bond. We're thick as thieves.
Yep.
And then 10, 15 years later, one of our young soldiers comes up to you as a commander and says, Amy sexually assaulted me. And you're going to go, no way.
Yeah.
Can't be. I know her. Right? And so there's a lot of that going on, and it's not out of malice. And that's really why I believe that the chain of command needs to be taken out of these prosecution and judicial decisions on how to adjudicate these cases, because there's a natural bias. There's a reason why Lady Justice is blind. And I think instead of saying to the commanders, you're bad, you're bad, you're bad, it's you're human, and I need you to do the job of protecting our freedom. And let this other arm do this, right? I never forget, I was talking to the 173rd Brigade commander, which is one of the most rapidly deploying airborne units in Europe, right? He said, well, Amy, that's my soldier. I said, you know what, sir? I'm not going to tell you how to jump out of helicopters. I need you to let me take care of trauma victims. Let me do my job, and you do your job, and if I need you to command something, I'll let you know. And it's just really having the ability to have those really hard conversations that I think aren't always happening. I think, too, there's always this intimidation of also talking to full bird colonels and 1- and 2-star generals. I had the privilege of being raised by colonels, and my best friend's dads were generals and made us pancakes every Sunday.
Right.
So I'm just like, well, General Horn, we're not doing that. you know, because I was just raised in that environment, and I understand that they're dads and brothers and, you know, best friends. So it's just different.
Well, I think, you know, I really like how you framed that in being able to kind of understand where that trauma bond was established in those early moments. You know, I was remembering those times when I was in basic training or survival school and those things that we were doing, you know, we're going through, and you make these very deep bonds with the people that you're with. I mean, I still have them. My friends now are general officers. A few of them are, and they're, you know, but that bond is still there. If I ever heard 15 years later that one of them had done something, I would be like, no way. There's that can't. No, I know this person. I know who they are, and that has got to be one of the hardest things for commanding officers and field officers that are, you know, in the chain of command, to be able to relinquish and say, you know what, I'm just too biased in this. I need to really step back so that I can let justice go forward, even if it's something that's really, really difficult for me to do.
Right. I know my 1st Brigade commander is now the director of DoD SAPRO, and he told me multiple times how proud he is of me. And actually, when he made general officer, I saw him in D.C., and he told my boss at the time, General Nakasone, and General Milley, when he was the chief of staff of the Army, he said, I wouldn't be a general officer if it wasn't for Amy's advisement. And he had a young soldier that was a 28-year-old specialist. She joined late, that was reported sexual assault in Qatar. And he was like, Amy, I just don't believe I raised this guy up from a baby lieutenant, and he's married, has 2 kids, really good guy. And, you know, she's got in trouble because they were drinking. I said, sir, I need you to really think about this. I said, the only reason we know that they left the FOB and violated general rule, right, and went drinking in a GOV off of the FOB is because she reported that when she made the mistake to go there and do that with him is when she was assaulted. So we would have never known they were drinking off the FOB. And, you know, when the case went to court-martial, he was like, you know, I really wasn't looking at it holistically. And, you know, thank you for saying you gotta, like, pull yourself away from the scenario. But I don't know that every person has the ability to have that conversation with their commanders. And I don't know how amenable everybody is about hearing that they're not really thinking about something correctly.
Oh, yeah.
A really hard conversation to have.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of the non-commissioned officers that serve in the capacity of victims advocates, they have to go back into their track of their career after they serve for 2 years as an advocate. And so to really upset the apple cart too hard is a little bit counterintuitive of them having to go back into their career field and get good assignments after the fact if they make people too mad.
Amy, how prevalent is sexual assault and rape in the military currently?
Well, so this past FY, we had 5,640 reports that were reported unrestricted. That does not count the restricted reports that don't go for investigation. And what's really horrifying in that is that only 255 of them went to a court-martial, and we only had 50 convictions. And we know from the Fort Hood report and that previous deputy director, FBI, Chris Swecker, that did that really in-depth review, is that we've got some serious problems with the professionalism and the manning for the law enforcement investigators within the military.
Oh, man, that's disgusting. I'm sorry. Wow, there's just a huge discrepancy between that. Are people, like, are women in the military afraid to report sexual assault and rape?
100%, 100%. You know, several of my friends that are females in the military have told me that they wouldn't even file a restricted report and put their name on a piece of paper because they would be afraid that somehow it would get leaked, that they reported a sexual assault. The retaliation is, you know, alive and well and thriving. It's a real problem.
Is retaliation worse than the reporting?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Many of my victims said, you know, the treatment that I received after reporting was far worse than the assault itself.
Oh my God.
It's like being re-assaulted on a daily basis by people that are supposed to be there for you.
So what does the retaliation look like? Is it something that where they're ostracized, or they kept apart from the squadron, the platoon, the group? How does that manifest?
Well, it's like professional gaslighting.
Ah, yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, when the case goes for an investigation on unrestricted, they tell so many people what's going on. They're like, oh, well, the sergeant major needs to know. Well, your battalion commander needs to know. And then the battalion sergeant major needs to know. Well, your company commander needs to know. And then the first sergeant needs to know. Well, then the S1 needs to know, because they need to process your paperwork. And oh, we should tell the chaplain too. And so then all these people are going, are you okay? So every day you go to work and you're reminded that you're a victim. And it is very re-traumatizing to people. And I try to remind individuals all the time, why do you need to know? What are you going to do to affect change, right? And there's just too many people that are involved in the case. I mean, can you imagine going to work every day and everybody that works with you knows that you reported your other colleague for rape every day? And then there's all the judgment.
Well, and especially too, if you made that trauma bond with them, you've been through basic training with that person that has been accused of it or is the perpetrator of it. And so you're already going in with a pre-bias, and so you're doing the same thing that we were just talking about. No, that can't be that person. I know this person. What's wrong with you? It must be you that is the problem, not the person who did this. You're the one who must have invited it in some way. And we go into that very, I guess, defensive mode.
Right. Well, you know, I did a deep dive into the report that was released on Vanessa Guillen, and there's about 6 names in that report that they forgot to redact.
Wow.
And when you pull it back and you kind of look at the change of commands and who was where when, so the sergeant first class that was sexually harassing her at NTC out at Fort Irwin, what they did was, when they got back to Fort Hood, they just moved him to a different company. And so they all knew, and there's all of these pictures of that sergeant first class with the other leadership and the company commander and a previous deployment together. Like literally in the sand, holding guns, sand on their face, these are my brothers. And so it really like hit me hard that they're like, oh, you know, she's just complaining and she's going to ruin our boy's life just because she can't take a joke. I mean, I've heard it a million times. These are actual comments and things that I have overheard, that I have corrected, that I've seen happening. And I mean, it all plays out. And I can read between the lines and see what happened there.
Well, could you share just a little bit of Vanessa's case and what happened to her?
So Vanessa Guillen was a family from a young immigrant family and decided to join the military so she could make her family proud and be able to get a higher education and serve her country. And she reported within her chain of command that one of the NCOs was sexually harassing her. And here recently, Major General Eugene LaBeouf from FORCECOM briefed the results of their investigation that they had done on Vanessa Guillen's sexual harassment, and then the murder that she was a victim of murder after reporting this sexual harassment. And he made a comment during that briefing that I found to be very disturbing. He said, well, the rank of Vanessa Guillen's sexual harasser is not relevant.
What? That's, oh
and
my gosh.
anybody that has ever served in the military knows that the fact that he was her platoon sergeant is very, very relevant.
Yes, it's very relevant. I was an officer in the military. I know that's relevant. I mean, whether you have that hierarchy naturally in the service, there's a purpose and a reason behind it. At the same time, people have been known to use that in order to hold power over somebody and authority, and it can be illegitimate sometimes.
Yeah, this is the abuse of power that we're talking about.
Right.
Like, I'm in charge. You can't leave, and my boys are going to back me up.
Yep.
I'm going to downplay what you're saying. I'm going to treat you as if you are, some kind of malingering soldier. And then they create this narrative that even, Vanessa's mother said, her daughter started losing weight and all of these things that were happening to her, which are, these physical manifestations of being traumatized and not getting any help.
I just don't, I don't understand it. I mean, I guess, I just was raised with different values, and we, values where we protect those we love. We don't abuse them. We don't use them. We don't take advantage of them. We don't, it was of mutual consent. It was mutual respect. It was bringing out the best in each other. And when I hear stories like this, Amy, it just saddens me.
Charlie, even the sexual assault professionals, we experience sexual harassment and even assault. I never forget, I was at U.S. Army Africa in Italy, and the new SARC arrived, and it was during International Denim Day, so we had this Denim Day walk, and Denim Day is a big thing that was started in Italy about, you can't blame sexual assault victims for their clothes. Anyhow, some soldier put on social media, is it bad that the new SARC looks so good in her jeans at Denim Day that it makes me want to rape her?
Wow.
And, I brought it up to everybody, and they're like, oh, that's just, they're just joking around. I'm like, no, that's not joking around.
No.
Like, that is online sexual harassment, and it's almost a threat. I would consider, are you alleging that you're going to do that? Or are you warning us that you want to do that?
Well, it's also power and control, too, right? Isn't it about, if I control what you wear, then I can control my behavior. Wait a second. Now you're disempowering somebody else just to be able to dress up nice, look good, feel good, those things, because of they gotta monitor your emotions, they gotta monitor your impulses, they're the ones. And so it's like this, again, it's this power and control that tends to show up in these situations, and I think those kinds of statements are indicative of that.
Oh, absolutely. But I tend to want to remind people that, grandmothers in their flannel pajamas in nursing homes get raped, women in burqas get raped, and soldiers in their ACUs get raped. So is it about my clothes or anything of my behavior, or is it because you're a criminal? The Department of Defense is always trying to come up with some scenario and some reason about why people are criminals. Well, if we could determine what makes somebody murder somebody, what makes somebody rape somebody, then we would go in and address it before it happened. It's unfortunate. There's always going to be a level of crime in the world, right? When you have super peaks and valleys is when you need to get really concerned because there's something else going on. But there is no reason for predators to change their behavior when they're not getting punished.
Yes, if there's no accountability, they're going to keep doing what they're doing and hurting more people, causing more harm.
I was floored a few days ago. I had a soldier send me their board packet. They're a whistleblower as well, and so they're trying to remove them from the military. And in the soldier's board packet, there was a complete CID investigation of the service member that that individual stood up for.
What?
The entire CID. I was floored. And so I'm reading through that, and I'm looking at the CID investigation, which is the Army Criminal Investigation Command, and it is documenting this victim's offenders' criminal history, which are DUI, multiple counts of domestic violence, multiple counts of disorderly conduct, trespassing, terroristic threats, from 3 different states. So he had charges in Georgia, Missouri, and Arizona. CID founded the case and said that the legal opinion was he committed this act of abusive sexual contact on this young specialist. He's a sergeant. And I went just this past month and sat with the victim while they testified in the board hearing, because they decided to not send it to court-martial, to just do a board review to see if they were going to retain him in the military. And with all of that criminal history, and with a substantiated, founded abusive sexual contact case, they decided to retain him in the military.
You're kidding.
I'm not. I'll email you the documentation. I literally I went like a teacher, and I took my red felt pen and I circled all the stuff. He failed his poly.
Unbelievable.
All of these things, all of his criminal histories, I circled it. I took pictures of it. I scanned it in, and I emailed it to General McConville, the Chief of Staff of the Army, and General Milley, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the Department of Defense IG Ombudsman, Senator Durbin, Duckworth, Gillibrand, and Representative Spears and Senator Bennett. Because at the same, so we're talking out of both sides of our mouth. So we're saying that's not tolerated. We're not going to allow people to remain in our ranks. And you have somebody that has an obvious criminal history from multiple states, and you're going to retain them? And then you're going to say it's not tolerated?
I don't, you know what I mean? I just don't understand why what is the justification for these kinds of cover-ups? What is the justification for denying the truth that is right there in front of you? I mean, it's clear, and it's almost like there's this permissibility that's unacknowledged or unspoken, that it's, and you just give license and permission for these people to continue to do these things and hurt these other service members that, my gosh, we are in the business of protecting and defending liberty and freedoms, not putting people in harm's way. And when you know that there's somebody that has this in his background or her background, but in this case, his background, what are you doing? It's incredible.
I got the packet a couple days ago. So Wednesday I sent my first email, and then I could barely sleep Wednesday night. Thursday morning I woke up infuriated and started redlining the entire investigation and circling it to make sure everybody saw what I was seeing. And I emailed it again, more documentation, to the chief and the chairman. And I'm just sitting here seething because he is a non-commissioned officer. Today, right now, he is in charge of baby privates with that criminal history. And we talk about prevention? Are you kidding me?
It's going to happen again. He's got a history of it. It's going to happen again. Yeah.
And he's been emboldened to do it.
Yes. Yes, you've emboldened these people when you keep these cover-up. Why is, is our military, and again, these are isolated, this is 3%, the vast majority of the military, wonderful, integrous, honorable people. Why are we so afraid to deal with these things? What is it? What is the purpose of perpetuating this nonsense?
I don't know. I mean, even the young lady that was the victim, they're like, oh, well, she's a troublemaker. I'm like, how? Because she reported he was assaulting her?
That doesn't make any sense.
And not that it matters to me. It might not matter to everybody, but, he's a big dude, right? And this young soldier is like 100 pounds soaking wet with 2 bricks under her arm. So you also have this size, it's a size intimidation plus rank intimidation, and now he knows that everybody knows he got away with it. And so now he could literally go rape somebody today and be like, well, nobody's going to believe me anyways. I always get off.
You give them a sense of invincibility. I'm invulnerable. You can't do anything to me. I mean, it's like counterintuitive. You're rewarding the wrong behavior. Mm-hmm. You're enabling bad behavior. If you want this behavior to end, you've got to hold people accountable. How can we do better as a military? How can commanders do better in regarding to handling sexual assault and rape cases? What could we be doing better right now in cases like the one that you just are handling on Wednesday?
I mean, I think one of the things that has to be done is we have to have transparency. All of these internal investigations, these Army Regulation 15-6 internal investigation that come out highly redacted, where you can't make heads or tails of it. The only national security crisis that we have is that we have more soldiers being raped and murdered and committing murder by suicide. I say murder by suicide because I feel like the retaliation drives them to the suicide, right? And then we do have them passing away in conflicts.
Yeah, like Lavena Johnson.
And they still will not change her death certificate from suicide. Nope. Not at all. I mean, it's just like one of the cases, the young lady that took her life there at Fort Carson, 2 or 3 years ago, Nicole Burnham. She was left in Korea for 87 days in the same barracks with the people the first rapist and then the gang rape that happened.
In the same barracks?
In the same barracks at Camp Casey. And I asked her, we had a conference meeting with her brigade commander, and I asked Colonel John Munford, I said, sir, how many case management groups, sexual assault review boards did you attend about your soldier? He was like, I can't remember. I said, I know, because I have the minutes and the sign-in sheets. You didn't go to one. That is your job as a brigade commander. As an 06 full-bird colonel, that you own that sexual assault program. And those case management groups or sexual assault review boards, depending on which service branch you're in, are oversight meetings to provide a safety net for victims, where you're supposed to talk about, are they safe? What is their risk level? Do they need mental health, behavioral health treatment? Are they asking for a transfer? Has the MPO been enforced? Where is the status of their case? Have they requested an expedited victim transfer to another base? Where is it at? Why is it taking so long? See, none of the leaders for Nicole Burnham were doing that, right? None of the leaders for Asia Graham at Fort Bliss were doing that. And, and as far as Vanessa Guillen goes, her sexual harassment was not handled properly. And I think that one of the things that has to be done, that the professionalism of victim advocates has to happen. The special victims councils, the lawyers for the victims, have to be in their own kind of pipelined command, where they can't be influenced by the chain of command, that they have to be in there, just kind of like CID and the other criminal investigation like NCIS is, because there's too much influence going on. And I also think that, we have federal grants, Victims of Crime Compensation Act and Violence Against Women Act. And so, in every community, listen, service members, every community has a rape crisis center and a domestic violence center. If you do not feel safe reporting your sexual assault to the chain of command, go to the local rape crisis center. They will make sure you get medical care. They will give you free behavioral health care, and they will keep your privacy. And more than anything, I want victims to be taken care of. Of course, I want predators to go to jail, but I first want the victims cared for and protected. I want them to feel safe. I want them to have the ability to get medical care, so they're not worried about being exposed to sexually transmitted infections or unwanted pregnancy or any of their other concerns about their body after such a traumatic event. I want them to be able to get, health care and behavioral health care, and then I want them to feel safe. And then those same kits are secured, right? And then you can make a decision how you want to go forward. But we got to get these people's power back. These victims need to, everybody's like, oh, they're a survivor. And I don't even really like that, Charlie. I don't like the term survivors. I don't want you to be surviving. I want you to thrive in life.
Yes.
I want you to have your power back.
Yes. You don't need to be carry the pain of somebody else's injuries on you that you had, that was unjustly done to you, and that you have to carry for the rest of your life. While they go ahead and live their life, no, you deserve just as much to live and thrive and succeed in everything that you ever wanted to do, and let this just be a footnote in your history. I mean, I believe that with you as too. I want you to, not just to survive, but to thrive. You don't have to live with this trauma for the rest of your life.
Right, and there are organizations like mine that can help you navigate these processes. We know who to call. I'm not afraid to email anybody. I remember one time I reported that my commander had said something off color about one of my victims, and I reported him. And the SJA said, "Why did you do that?" I said, "I'll call the president if I want to." Like, everybody has a boss, and people cannot be allowed to intimidate you and make you feel like you don't have a voice.
Yes.
Just like I said this morning on the Donnie Walker show, I said, there's nothing about my job that is more important than somebody's life. So if the Department of Defense wants to fire me because they don't like how I protect my victims, I do it. I dare you.
Which they did, by the way, right? You were working with them.
I'm still suspended.
You're still suspended. Okay, all right.
I'm on a paid suspension and have been for over 18 months.
Well, you were the whistleblower. You were actually, not only were you hired to help them with their sexual assault prevention program there at the Pentagon, but you blew the whistle on them in 2019, right?
Yeah, November of 2019.
What happened?
Well, the straw that broke the camel's back for me was a 17-year-old high school opt-in recruit that was raped in the female latrine by a 25-year-old NCO. And they documented that was, quote, consensual sex, and she had a broken arm. And after they tormented the young lady by doing their internal investigation, she didn't want to participate. And then when it finally got to me, I said, well, it has to be reported to law enforcement, but as the victim, you get to choose if you want to participate in the investigation or not. And there still has not been a proper investigation about that assault, because there was multiple outcry witnesses. People witnessed her with a beaten up face, broken arm, and the command had a military protective order against her alleged offender. And even in this last documentation that I got a couple days ago, the company commander says, during my change of command, the soldier that was accused of assaulting Private Jane Doe, we escorted him out of the military building because of the MPO. So it was consensual or not. There's an MPO for an innocent person, a broken arm for no reason. Like, I'm just really, really confused.
It's confusing. That's really confusing. It's like, you're talking from two different directions. You're not holding people accountable for the things that they do, and you're not protecting and giving justice to the victims. I mean, it seems like it's a problem of leadership, quite frankly, I think.
It's a huge problem in leadership. But the other thing, we have to remember, a 17-year-old high school student, right? So in the state of Illinois, there's a Romeo and Juliet law. And if you're over the age of 24, a 17-year-old can't consent to having sex with you.
Wow.
So
It's pretty rich. It's right there.
Couldn't even consent it if she wanted to.
Right.
And I don't know anybody that says, please break my arm while we have sex. That sounds fun.
Never. Nope. It's not, doesn't happen.
That's insane.
It is insane.
And they told me it was a training issue, that the commanders just didn't understand that they had to report the crime to law enforcement. I said, it's been in federal code since 2006 that even if a third-party notification to a commander of a sexual assault has to be reported to law enforcement. Mm-hmm. It's in their commander's legal guidebook. It's in a checklist. And, you know, it is a just complete violation of federal law to not do that. If a teacher saw a child coming into school abused like that, they would lose their teaching license, they would face jail time and a monetary fine. And I think that these commanders that are not reporting these violent felony assaults need to be held to the same standard that we hold teachers to.
Amy, you were on, and to carry on with that, because of the importance of that and being able to hold people accountable, you on March 24th of this year, you spoke in front of the Senate Armed Services Committee about this very issue that's been confronting the military and holding these people, these predators, accountable to the things that they do. Could you share just a little bit about what the feeling was in the room? Is Congress really ready to do something about this besides just having hearings?
You know, here recently, Senator Gillibrand had 63 senators that were going to vote to pass the Military Justice Improvement Act and Prevention. And Senator Jack Reed from Rhode Island and Senator Inhofe from Oklahoma blocked the vote. And it's very disheartening. You know, Senator Inhofe has a huge issue going on at Fort Sill with the training instructors, 22 people allegedly raping multiple trainees at Fort Sill. So, you know, and some of the National Guard issues with a couple of our Gold Star families, I really think he needs to focus on what's going on in his state and his military bases, because, you know, Gillibrand's trying to, you know, make change that is supportive of creating a better environment, a safer environment for our service members. I'm very disappointed with Senator Jack Reed. You know, he's an Army colonel, he was a Ranger, he's a tabber, and I don't know, but, you know, I wouldn't be surprised that, you know, some of his colleagues were like, hey, Jack, we're getting too much traction, man, we need you to help us stop this.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, but it just seems very strange that he would intervene on something that is going to make the military safer for our service members.
And a better and stronger fighting force, too. Because you have to, in order for us to have an effective fighting force that is willing to protect our freedoms and to be able to give their lives, you need to have everyone together in a cohesive unit that is able to function, and knowing that each person has their back. I've got your, and you don't have to worry about it. I'm going to protect you. It doesn't matter you're a man or woman. You're there for me, and I'm there for you. You got to have that kind of clarity. It's going to make a more effective fighting force. And why that, why there's that the disconnect is beyond me. It's really.
Well, you know, really Chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff Mark Milley got on camera the other day and said that what they're doing has not been working because they haven't been able to move the needle, right? And continuing to do the same thing over and over again and getting the same result is like the definition of insanity.
Yep.
So why do we want to continue to do the same thing that's getting a bad result? And this is a force protection issue. The fact that, you know, Lieutenant General Pat White had more service members, you know, die or by suicide or be murdered at Fort Hood in his garrison than he did during his entire deployment during Operation Inherent Resolve is an issue.
Yeah. That's a huge
So
issue.
if you're a 3-star general and you're like, okay, I've got a bunch of service members dying on American soil in my garrison, you need to adjust your focus, right? That's what they teach you in military school. Adapt and overcome. Be able to shift and adjust focus at any time to look at where the threat is. So he obviously wasn't able to do that effectively because he didn't shift his focus. And, they reprimanded Major General Elephant, his deputy commander. And I want to make this very clear. General Elephant had the authority to do things, but there was no change of command. So the responsibility still laid with, Lieutenant General Pat White.
Mm-hmm.
You can delegate authority, but not responsibility.
Yeah, so true.
Military 101, right?
That is basic military 101. That's what I learned at the academy. As we're coming to the close of the show here, Amy, I want to give some time here for you to be able to speak about the organization that you have, so that for our service members that are listening in and tuning in and needing resources and needing to know where they can reach out to, I want to be able to give you some time here to be able to talk about the Never Alone advocacy group and just what your organization does to help the victims of sexual violence.
Thank you for that. So, we're a very diverse group. We have retired generals, retired colonels, retired NCOs. We have sexual assault response coordinators, victim advocates that volunteer. We have therapists, lawyers, and healthcare providers. And what we really do is just assess everybody's needs and get them to the right services or to the right audience, whether that be a journalist, whether that be Congress, whether that be having one of our board members send their command an email to help educate them on what's going wrong and why it's a problem. That's been very effective. If I can affect change in an organization by reaching out to a commander and saying, I don't know that you understand what's really going on with your troop, and let us kind of like lay it out for you, we do that as well. We also have given advisement to commanders. I kind of feel like they're in a hard spot, and making sure that they are doing the right thing so they don't ruin one of their service members' lives and they don't ruin their career either, right? And we just really try to be there for people. My son is a veteran, and we're kind of sitting at the table, and he was like, Mom, that's the whole thing about being a soldier. You never leave anybody alone. And he was like, that's why you should call it Never Alone Advocacy. And I was like, all right, Jake.
I think it's great because you don't leave anybody. You never leave anybody behind. You never leave anybody alone. That's at the core, because
right.
That's why people when they think back about their military service and time, the majority you look back fondly to those times, because boy, you forge bonds that can be inseparable. And I believe everybody deserves to have that kind of a bond, and the betrayal of that bond is it needs to be addressed as an apostasy. That we need to eradicate that and make it as safe as we possibly can.
Yeah, like I said, a lot of times the retaliation is through the judgment of the peers, right? And I would oftentimes ask soldiers, how do you know that they're lying? Mm-hmm. Were you there? I just don't understand. And I have to just really give a shout out, to my board, General Shadley, Camilla Vance Shadley, Colonel Martin, and the entire team, my dad, my best friend's dad, my husband, my boys. My husband Michael's been phenomenal through this. I was just coming home so distraught about how these soldiers were being treated. He said, honey, you do whatever you need to do to make it right, and I'll stand behind you. And, that kind of love and support is the only reason that we've been successful. And, because it's done out of love. Yeah. And I don't ever want to hold another hand of another Gold Star mother because the military failed to protect their kid and they lost their child. I will say, suicide is a real thing for victims of trauma. And, the National Suicide Hotline is 800-273-8255. You're welcome to reach out to us at neveraloneadvocacy.org, but we don't run a 24/7 hotline. We will get back to you very quickly, usually within 24 hours. But if you're in an immediate crisis, please call a 1-800 number or go to your local rape crisis center.
And do they go to, for Amy, if they want to get in touch with you, they go straight to the website, the neveraloneadvocacy.org? Is that where they go to?
Mm-hmm. We're on Twitter as well, Never Alone Advo 1. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Never Alone Advocacy. So, we check all of those platforms.
Well, what you're doing is extraordinarily noble, and I can tell how much you love the soldiers that you're there to advocate for, and when they go through something that is such a deep betrayal of trust, and when they don't feel like they can trust anybody, I'm so thankful that they have someone like you that's looking out for them.
Well, thank you. We have a really good team, and I really appreciate all of the people that have been supportive of us, that connect us to people like you as well, Charlie. Thank you for having us on today.
Well, it's been an honor. And before we close out the show, I want to make sure that I do another quick shout out to our fantastic station here at KUHS TV Radio Denver. We are broadcasting live here in Denver, Colorado. And we are being supported in the back there by Henry and all the team back there. Thank you for making this possible and for making the magic happen. It seems so seamless, but there's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes to make this magic happen. And we are broadcasting not only here in Denver, Colorado, but all across this nation and all around the world. We are being listened to by so many people from so many different countries. It is an honor to be your host, and thank you for coming back all the time. And it's really humbling, and I'm really grateful for each and every one of you. Amy, before I close out the show, I always like to ask my guests one question. It's kind of the way we close it out and kind of lift it up and give people some hope. If you could give one piece of advice, one bit of wisdom from your life experience, what would it be?
I think that I would say, when you are interacting with other human beings and they seem to not respond to you in a nice way, understand that you might not know what's going on in their life. And a lot of times people respond to you from unaddressed trauma, and just show people a little bit of care and love and compassion, and will go a long way.
Oh, that is so true. Little just kindness, just more kindness in the world. Amy, thank you. This has been an honor and a privilege to have you on. And folks, thank you for tuning in. From wherever you are in the world, the council is adjourned. May you all be well. May you all be free of pain and suffering. May you all be whole. Folks, we'll be back with you in a few weeks. Take care, and God bless.